Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Wedding Ceremony Podcast. We talk about anything and everything that has to do with wedding ceremonies. My name is Clint Houghton. With me is a gentleman that, well, we don't know if he's going to last the entire episode. Oh, the tension builds. The one and only J.P. Reynolds.
Clint, good to be with you all. And yes, I am losing my voice, but the show must go on.
The show will go on. And today we have a special guest, and I mean special with a capital S. Oh my gosh, you and I have both had the privilege of working with this person, and she is brilliant. She is the one and only Charley King. Charley, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. It's lovely to be here with you too.
Well, they can obviously tell right off the bat that you didn't grow up in Alabama. So, Charley, tell
My
everybody
accent.
where you are, what you do, and where you're from.
I'm from Brooklyn. No, I'm kidding. I am from Buckinghamshire, a little town in England, about an hour southwest of London, where I grew up on a farm. And I am a luxury destination, international destination wedding planner. And I love weddings and I love love.
Well, that whole thing about luxury international, that stirs the pot just a little bit. The question I want to ask you, I know a little bit about your background. I know that you didn't come into events right off the bat. You had a very fascinating background in the entertainment industry, and you're a dancer, you're a trained dancer, and you know what it's like to be in front of a camera and on stage in front of an audience. And I want to know, having that experience, how that influences what you do in the event industry.
That's a really great question. It was such a seamless transition to go from 20 years of doing Broadway shows in London and New York, where I sing, dance, act, put on a show. So, and I've worked with the most incredible people over the years, Mel Brooks, Susan Stroman. And so I've seen beautiful productions. And so when I decided to make this transition that kind of came out the blue, I wasn't looking to be a wedding planner. It's just something that just sort of happened, and then it just took me by the throat and just yanked me in, and I was like, oh, I guess this is where I sit now, because I loved it. But because basically we're putting on a show, that's what we're doing, and our couples are the stars of the show. I'm not your normal wedding planner. I bring my past career into this job that I do now. So when I'm curating a wedding for a couple, it is very much, it's not just, oh, it's a wedding. Here we go, walk down the aisle, walk back up. It looks so pretty, lots of flowers. It's so much more than that. It's the soul of the wedding. It's like putting on a three-act play. You have to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. You have to take your guests on a journey. There's an energy to a wedding. There's a flow to the wedding. There's so much more when you're producing a wedding than just it's a wedding. I can't even describe it to you because it comes from a guttural instinct inside me. Like when I know when I'm on time for dinner, and I know when I'm losing my audience and I have to move on to speeches because I can feel the dip in the audience and the guests. I can feel it. It's all that's going on behind the scenes in my head when I'm on a wedding day, and then when I'm curating the wedding, I literally approach it like we're doing a musical or a film, but I'm telling their love story. And so every section of the wedding day is curated to the nth degree to make it personal and special, everything about the couple. And why lighting to me is so important, because if you go to see a Broadway show and there's no lighting on the stage, well, you got the most boring show in the world, right? So when you have, sometimes lighting is the hardest thing to tell a couple to have, because lighting is expensive. It's the pizzazz in the Broadway show. It's your show, the lighting. So for me, it was a seamless transition, and that's a long answer to a short question.
Charlie, I love that phrase of when you say you tap into the soul. May we presume that what you just said, your philosophy of events, is this what you share with the couple? Because I'm going to presume that you only work with couples who have soul. There are couples for whom it's essentially an event
Yeah.
rather than a Olivier award-winning production. How do you determine soul and who is your demographic?
So that's a really good question, JP. They don't know it's an Olivier Award-winning performance because they don't know. They've not experienced that. They don't know what that feels like, right? But they know what it feels like when they go to a wedding and it's, oh, that was a nice ceremony. Oh, the room's really pretty. When they go to a wedding and they can feel the love in the room, they can feel it. It's a feeling. You can't describe it. You can't say, this is what that looks like. It's a feeling. I can pull anything out of any couple because of the way that I talk and I get to know them and I get to really know them and their family. And by doing that, the deeper I know a couple, the easier it is for me to draw something out of them that I can then produce and make into the show. And it doesn't mean to say it has to be big and it has to be flashy. Even the smallest little thing, the smallest detail can make a huge impact. It's just getting to know the couples on a deeper level and connecting with them and connecting with their mums and the family and the history and the grandparents and pulling it all together because that's what creates a beautiful wedding. And when you go to a wedding, it doesn't have that, because you think, please cut the cake so we can leave. There's lots of weddings that we've all been to and there's just no soul in the room. But it's up to us to pull that out of our clients and pull that out of our couples to create that, to give that feeling.
It's fascinating that you talk about it in regards to soul. I had an officiant come up to me asking me some questions about her business. And she said that she hired somebody else to be an officiant. She said, because it's so easy to just read a ceremony. I said, wait a minute, that you just hand them a ceremony script and they just read it and that's the job.
Oh.
And she said, yeah. And I said, I mean, you're entitled to run your business any way you want to, but I'm just concerned that there's no heart in the ceremony. Yeah. Where's the heart? Soul, heart. But I think we're talking about the same thing. And now when you get into the nitty gritty, I was thinking about if you're about to enter the stage and the wing isn't wide enough for everybody to come on seamlessly, then it's going to be an awkward moment. And then in between shows, you guys are going to talk about and say, well, listen, we have to figure out what that entrance is going to be because we don't have enough room in the wing. And I think about it exactly the same way in regards to the ceremony and how you're going to get there, who's going to be where, how they're going to be, where's that thing, how's it going to get there. I think about all of that stuff before I even think about the words that will make the ceremony come alive. Does that make sense, JP?
Oh, very much so. No, I mean, you've really tapped into something here, Charlie. I mean, I latched on, we've latched onto that word soul, and it's so hard to define. By the way, I was born and raised in New York City. So I love Broadway and I also love London and I salute both districts, but it's about being a director, a producer.
It is.
It's that old thing of Judy Garland and Mickey Rooney say, hey gang, let's put on a play. And you've got to have that enthusiasm and that energy and also understand you in your capacity as the producer of this whole shebang. And I think, Clint, for you and me, within that large production, you and I are the producers and directors of that opening segment of the evening.
You guys are act one, right? You are the first act. You are the opening act. The curtain opens and there you guys are. Right. So how you structure act one is going to be the tale of how the rest of the evening is going to go. So if you have a fabulous act one where the ceremony is full of heart and love, and because you both pour so much of your heart into the ceremonies, that's your speciality. You pull all that out of the couples. And I always love when, Clint, you always say, you're going to say what you want to say. They're going to hear what you want to hear. You are the master of the ceremony, and then you guys sprinkle your magic. So if we have a magical act one where we have an officiant who is not just an officiant, you are the conductor of act one, right? You are the musical conductor. Then we know we're going to have a great show. But if I have a musical conductor who's standing there reading from a phone, going, do you take so-and-so to be your, and then they're in the way for the kiss and they don't know what they're doing. Act one just did not get a standing ovation.
I always say to couples, you can have a great party with a lousy ceremony. But if you have a great ceremony, it propels everybody into the party and reminds them of what they are celebrating. And that really, Clint, is what animates and guides each of us in what we're doing. How do we understand ourselves? And it's that difference between reading the phone book and understanding that it's creating energy.
I agree. And Charlie, when you said you're not going to read it from a phone, my whole body immediately reacted to that. Oh my gosh, we've all experienced that where somebody writes personal vows and they're supposed to be this incredible love gift to their spouse and then they take out their phone. Fine. A lot of people are used to that. But to me, we've broken the connection, we've broken the magic. You know what I mean? There's got to be a different way in which you can keep the romance injected into the ceremony as, you know, they try to communicate what's in their hearts. And to have an officiant or a reader come up and pull out their phone, I don't say anything in the moment other than, you know, slap them. But I just, oh my gosh, come on. You got to think about this for a second. I think we're all talking about the same thing. What I am curious about, Charley, is the logistics of what you do. When you look at a ceremony, I'm fortunate to work with you in a venue a number of times, so we know it like the back of our hands.
Mm.
But when you hear the couple talk about their vision or what they want to do with the ceremony, or maybe you kind of flesh out, do you also think about the space and the people, the vendors, and that sort of thing in order to see how the production is going to come to fruition?
Yeah, for me, it's like a blank stage, it's like a blank canvas. And so, what I always do is I create a story. It's their story, but I create the story. What is the first impression when the guests arrive? Where are they going to go? What are they going to feel? What are they going to see? What are they going to smell? And I do that for every single area of the wedding, the ceremony, the cocktail hour, the reception. What is the music? How are we going to crescendo the music so it's nice and gentle for for guest arrival, right? That's your entr'acte. When the guests arrive, you have half an hour of music that's going to set the tone, and then we up it for the ceremony, then we up it for cocktail hour, then we up it, and then we just like that rocket just takes off for the evening. So yeah, so every space has a story and a design and a vision. That's how I approach the wedding. There's no other way of doing it, whether it's a wedding, it's a birthday, it's a brand activation, it's a hotel activation, whatever I'm doing, it always has to have a story. That's what makes the magic come alive.
That's
It's a part of
humanity. Yeah, absolutely. That's how humans connect. When you talk to an officiant, because obviously JP and I are both officiants, whether
it.
they're a professional or an amateur and somebody like friend or family doing it for the first time, what kind of communication works best for you?
When I don't have someone, as fabulous as you both, it's a lot more on me, because then I have to really, if they've never done it before, it's a lot of hand holding and it's a lot of explaining about what they need to do, where they need to stand, get out of the way for the kiss. I have to read their ceremony. I have to make sure I do anyway, just to make sure there's not some surprise table that I need for candle lighting that I haven't been told about, the day before, and I need a table and a linen, It's a lot more hand holding, and I try and explain the way that you guys would explain to the couples. I try and tell them to create a beautiful story, make sure it's about the couple and the words that they want to say and they want to hear. It is a lot more hand holding and trying to put my Clint and JP hat on and explain how the ceremony should really run.
Along those lines, the number of couples who invite the friend, the relative to officiate just each year continues to increase. The number of wackadoo, if not horror stories of guest officiants having people stand for the entire ceremony because I tell them to sit, probably the number one mistake. It's added work. And you seldom meet a guest officiant who is relaxed and happy for the 6 months leading up to the wedding. I mean, for the 6 months, it's like, oh my God, and it's just this big X on the calendar. Why do you think couples are so captivated by the idea of having the aunt, the uncle, the drunken college roommate officiate? What is the allure there? What do you think is the selling point?
I think it's familiarity. I think it's having someone marry them that they know, that has known their past, connected to them in some way. I think it's connection, really, of knowing that person and just having that person who's going to be in their life for the rest of their life, hopefully. So I think it's having that years of going back of, however many years it is, or a family member who's maybe a pastor. It's familiarity and connection.
Without realizing that you can know somebody and love somebody and still not have a good ceremony.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah.
know. Yes, I know.
I always say that love alone is not going to get you a good ceremony.
Yeah. My number one thing, and I can pretty much guarantee every time I have someone that's not a proper officiant, I have to go down the side of the chairs and go, you may sit. Pretty much 9 times out of 10.
I will just parenthetically say I'm doing a wedding in July. The couple booked me earlier this year, a remarkable couple, because they said to me, we'd really love to get to know you. Would you mind
That's lovely.
letting us get to know? Well, I have now been Zooming with them every 3 weeks.
Wow.
I love that.
Now, I also do communication coaching and training. And so they had some family political situations that they wanted some guidance on. But come July, I will probably know them better than any and I thought, wow, and I don't know if I could do that with all of the couples that I officiate. I said to them yesterday, I said, I feel like I met you on Hinge or Bumble. I feel like have you had a couple like that? I've never had a couple like that before where they wanted to
No,
date me.
well, the fact that you also offer communications coaching and that sort of thing, and I can see where the value of that, the more frequent communication, whereas I'm not certified, I don't do that. So I think that minimizes the amount of contact. Plus, the fact that they have their hands all over the ceremony, there's no surprises. And so it's very rare when a couple will ask for a second or a third interaction. I mean, I always welcome it. I always tell them, I'll talk with you as many times as you want. It's fine with me. But because there's so many moving parts and all of this pressure that we've talked about ad nauseum in regards to what a couple feels about their wedding day and all of the stuff that's coming from the outside and trying to get in on them, to have something that they can feel secure about, like the wedding ceremony and what I'm going to do for them, I think is a huge relief. Okay, having said that, JP, I've talked to a lot of event planners, Charley, about how they remain friends with their couples past the wedding day. Do you find that? Because I don't have that experience. I mean, I just release them, kick them out of the nest. I release them. It's always a great surprise when somebody comes up to me at a wedding and they say, "You married us." That's just a wonderful connection right there. I may not always remember them, but it's important that I thank them and am excited the fact that they came up to me because it meant something to them. JP, using this couple that you're going to marry in July as an example, do you anticipate having interaction with them beyond the wedding day?
Well, okay, so that's a great question from our perspective of the officiant world. Because I always say to a couple, when you hire me for life.
So that's it.
I have occasionally, not recently, one hand I could count, couples coming back to me 5 years later and saying we want to do a renewal. And that was very sweet. Earlier this year, I was at the Amundsen Theater at the Music Center, and during intermission, I'm there alone, and this woman comes up to me, and as a New Yorker, we New Yorkers really don't appreciate people just coming up to them. Right? It's like, oh God, all right. And she looks at me and she says, "Is it possible that I met you at a wedding?" I love that question. Is it possible that I met you at a wedding? And I said, "It's very possible that you met me at a wedding." And it turned out that it was a woman whose wedding I officiated 15 years ago.
Wow.
That's lovely.
Well, sadly, they were divorced.
Oh, well.
Which made it just slightly awkward. I feel so relieved when you said, Clint, just now that you may or may not remember the couple. And this is the weird thing, Charley, I would say, I think for officiants is the exchange of vows is one of the most intimate moments in a couple's life. And it's played out in such a public arena.
Yeah.
And Clint, you and I are like standing there, having walked in off the street, essentially, witnessing the intimacy of this moment. And then you are right, as the officiants, and this is a little different, I would imagine, than the event planner, we send them forth into the world to live out their lives. And maybe someday we'll meet them at the Amundsen Theater during intermission. But
it is a very intimate moment. But I know that you both do this, and Clint, he does this. He brings them at the beginning of the ceremony. There's a moment of silence, and it's just Clint, and he whispers, and he won't tell me what he says. I've asked him multiple times, but he whispers something to the couple. And in that moment, it's quiet. And normally you think, oh my God, the silence, silence. What's going on? What's going on? He pulls in the couple. And it's like the three of them, the triangle. And nobody else exists. And he creates that moment, that bubble, and that moment of intimacy. And for me, that's like the magic there when he does that. And that's when I feel like that connection happens. Even though you don't have the family connection or the college connection, that's when the magic happens.
We've talked about that, Clint. I create a bubble. I don't do it the way that you do. So I'm not a couple whisperer. I am fascinated also by what Clint whispers. Again, I'm from New York. I can't whisper. But couples do say to me, as they say to you, Clint, they felt like it was just the three of us.
Yes.
Again, like you talked about soul, there's techniques in which that bubble can be created. It's hard to describe.
You can't.
Bubble, no bubble. But that I think goes back to if you're just there to read a script, there's not going to be a bubble. If
Exactly.
you understand what is animating those words on that paper, then that leads to a bubble.
Plus, there's a dance. There's a dance between the officiant and the guests and the officiant and the couple. What I think is really important is that the guests feel connected. The understanding is that this is all about the couple. And one of the things I do, and it's just a little technique, and it goes back to really good theater. There's all kinds of little logistical techniques. Like, do you break the fourth wall or do you not? Do you, those little things that an officiant can bring into kind of like their bag of tricks. So the moment that you're talking about, Charley, most of the time, if the couple is facing each other, I'll say, hold hands, because that seems to ground them. That seems to calm them down when they have that physical touch. So what I do is when I go lean in to get their attention, I'll put my hand on top of their hands, just as a way of saying, I'm also calming you down, but I also need your complete attention right now. It's just that little whisper. And the fact that I touch their hands is kind of like a trick that just brings everything into that moment. And then I say what I want to say. And by the way, Charley, you've told me that you don't want me to tell you that. You don't want me to tell you what I say to the couples.
I do and I don't. It's like, oh, like watching the car crash. You want to look, but you don't. I do want to know. You also have a way of making the guests not feel excluded in that moment. You make them feel like they're witnessing something really special and they've, oh my God, we're here and we're witnessing what this thing is that's happening, but we don't know what it is, but it's happening. Oh my God, I feel so special. That's how it makes them feel.
And that there, for me, I think, Charley, you just identified one of the most important elements of what makes a ceremony work. The ceremony is an act of witnessing. The couple invite people to come to witness, and the celebration and the dancing and the food flows from the act of witnessing. And again, how do you create the magic? The magic comes from the witnessing. Clint and I don't talk at the people, we talk to them and we invite them in. And that's the power of ritual.
Even when I walk up the aisle to start the ceremony, and typically Charley will kind of kick me in the pants and say, go. and then walking up the aisle, I realize that I'm the first person of the ceremony. I'm the first thing of the ceremony, almost like in Lion King when the big animals come down the aisle. I never thought of that before, but that's what it makes me think of. But anyway, and then I noticed that people are, oh, something's happening, and they'll turn to see who's coming up or coming down the aisle.
Yeah.
I like making eye contact with people, and whatever it is, everybody's so pretty or whatever it is, just to kind of say hi as I'm coming up the aisle, not to make a big thing of it because I have to get out of the way. The rest of the processional's coming, but that's where that connection begins, to where they know that I'm not Mr. Fancy Pants, like I'm all full of myself. It's more along the lines of, oh boy, here we go. This is going to be really fun. And it's those little things that we add as we go along through our career and say, oh man, that works. I'm going to do that again. And I'm sure, throughout the entire day, it's those little nuances as we iterate our skill set that make a huge difference for the next couple. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And it's the smile when you're going down the aisle, the connection that makes everyone go, you make the guests feel comfortable. And if the guests feel comfortable, that's immediately going to put energy into the air. It's all energy. Everything's energy.
Yeah, we're speaking the same language. Absolutely. Yeah. JP, any final questions?
Just a quick recap, Charley. From your perspective, how can an officiant help you? 2 or 3 things that an officiant can do to help you as the event planner, as the director, the producer of this shebang.
Can they all be like you guys? That's it.
Oh, you sweet talker.
Yeah, I love communication. So I'm going to reach out, and if I don't know them, whether it's an officiant or if it's a family friend, whatever, doing it, I need connection. I want to read the ceremony. I want to make sure that everything is great because I'm going to print it out and bring it with me because One time in my career, very early on, I had a priest forget to bring his words with him at a site where there's not a printer. This is way back in the early days, so I'm never going to be caught short again. I did get them, the sides to him, but that was a stress that I didn't need. Yes, communication. I want to read through everything. On the wedding day, I want them to come in with their biggest smile that you guys bring, be a team player. And yeah, communication is the number one thing. And if they've never done it before, trust me, I'm not the wedding planner that's, some wedding planners can be quite tough and very strict and very sort of, I'm the leader, I'm in charge, do as I say. I'm not like that. I don't run the show that day. I'm very much like, I want to help you. I want you to be amazing. I want, like, when I talk to photographers with the timeline, I want the timeline to be amazing for them so they can do their best work. So if someone's never done it before, I want to be able to guide them and help them so that they do the best job of doing the ceremony. It's all about connection.
Well, thank you very much, Charley. You are obviously excellent as a guest, but also as a person and as a team member and what we would say the team leader. Anytime we have the privilege of working with you, and it's just wonderful that you came on. I know people are going to want to reach out to you. What's the best way for them to do that?
Oh, that's lovely. My email is Charley, Charley, at bluebellevents.com. Or Instagram, and I'm at Charley Bluebell on Instagram. Those are the best ways.
JP, how can people get in touch with you?
jprweddings.com, and Insta and social media is at jprweddings.
We've already alluded to the fact that JP is a communications expert. The website for that is thebusinessofconfidence.com. And remember, he is also an accomplished author, a lot about wedding ceremonies and how to deal with the stress of getting ready for your wedding day. All of those books are in the Amazon store and in the Kindle store in Amazon. My website is just my name. It's Clint Huff, ClintHufft.com. And on the socials, just reverse it. It's at Huffed Clint, and you'll eventually get to me. That's it for this episode of the Wedding Ceremony Podcast. This is Clint, and on behalf of JP and Charley, we will see you next time.